Good day and welcome to the webinar on long lead schedules and information schedules in K&E Planning. My name is Isak van Niekerk from Cape Town office. As we celebrate our 40th birthday this year of our software, it's my privilege to present this webinar to you.
Two contributing factors to late completion of projects are both late appointments as well as late information received. These two factors might be the main cause why projects are late. Today we're going to discuss the long leads and information schedules and how these schedules can be used to assist and minimize delays on the project. Due to the large number of people logged in, we will not be able to answer any questions during the webinar. Please submit your questions during the session with the provided function on the screen, and at the end of the webinar we'll collate these questions and send answers to everybody that registered for this webinar via email. Today's presentation will be recorded and you will receive a link to download it. There's a monthly webinar on various K&E topics, and should you not be able to attend the webinar at a given time frame, then please still register for the webinar, as this will entitle you to receive a recorded copy of the webinar. Today we'll discuss the long lead schedules, sample, what it looks like, how to use it, methods of transfer of activities into the long lead schedule, entry of long lead items, long lead reports, how to export a predicted late long lead finish to the schedule. After that, we'll discuss the information schedules. Again, how does it look, how to use it, methods to transfer the activities into the information schedule. Be basically the same as for the long leads, but we'll discuss it again. Entry of information required items, how to enter that. Information required reports, how to produce reports, especially separate reports for different consultants, which you can also do in the long lead. And we will also talk about the export that late information to the schedule. So how does the long lead schedule work? You've got the activity that has to happen on site that you've got in your program, lift installation. Now, before you can install the lift, it needs to be manufactured. However, before you can manufacture it, one needs to appoint the guy, and therefore you need tender approval. And before the tender approval, obviously you need a tender period. So basically you're working backwards. Now, this is things that you would have put on your schedule, but you don't have to. Now we'll put it into the long lead schedule. Okay, so you'll put in design approval, the tender period, tender approval, appointment, and manufacture, and that all has to happen before the activity starts on site. You will notice that the long leads is a series of events required before the activity can commence on site. A delay of any of the events will delay the following events and activities. So let's now go and look at a practical example to see how this works. Here is a sample program to show how to create a long lead schedule. Select the sample, and here's a couple activities already programmed that we're going to use to explain how the long lead schedule works. You can either choose procurement on the menu, select long lead, or you could have chosen the long lead icon, the L. Click on the long lead schedule. The long lead manager opens up, and here you'll create multiple long leads. You can create new long leads from scratch. You can create a heading and subheadings in here. You can go into the first long lead, and let's call this sample long lead activity entry, and select it. Right, let's move it slightly so you can see. Let's look at the columns. The T is the activity type that will be displayed, activity number, activity description that will be fetched from the program, and under the description you'll type the relevant long lead descriptions as well. Then you've got the lead duration, responsibility code, when does the activity start. This is not entered by the user, that this is reflected from program, and then the start and finish of the long lead item is calculated based on the activity start and the duration that was entered. And then if there was an actual finish, you can enter it, or you can even enter a predicted finish. And you can see once you actually entered the actual finish, the effect of the actual finish minus the long lead item finish. Include a symbol which is used on the long lead reports, and a remark of 48 characters that you can input. Recommendation to use activity entry. You split the screen in half, maybe the long lead schedule at the bottom and the standard bar chart at the top. The activity we're going to look at is the sprinklers, first fix ceilings. So you'll say, okay, we want the activity number, case sensitive, F530. Once you enter, the activity description as well as the start date is automatically copied from the program. Can't edit anything here. If there was a mistake or a spelling mistake, let's go back to the program and edit it in there, and it will reflect in the long lead schedule. Something to consider is if you're now going to print out this long lead list, consultant's only going to see sprinklers, first fix ceiling, but no idea which area, what location, where is the sprinklers actually used. So to do that, what you should do is always add the headings above the activity, like in this case, heading number 5, Robben Island Museum, B2 envelope, grid 5 to 8, and above that the envelope and finishes, level 4, the RIM, Robben Island Museum finishes, level 3, and then the retail and the RIM magnet in this case. So to do that, you'll insert. You can use either control insert on your keyboard, or if it's not on your keyboard, you can do the edit insert line, and most likely you would want to say add 5 blank lines above the activity entry. Again, just add the activity number, in this case E611. Remember, it's case and spelling sensitive. Next one heading that I want is F520. We'll go and fetch the information from the program, both the heading level as well as the and its start dates. Right. We also want F521. And then the last heading immediately above the activity is F522. Now when I print out the list, the consultants know exactly where it is that I'm looking for at. Right, so the first thing that we obviously would require is the tender drawings and details. So start abbreviating with some of the stuff. And that's the detail. Press the tab key to jump to the duration column. Here we're going to enter a 1-day duration, basically just advising the consultants what day the information is required, or the tender drawings is required. Tab, who will be the consultant that we're going to allocate this to. We'll put in his initials, in this case AM. And when I enter, what's going to happen? The computer is going to calculate, okay, for me to start on the 11th of January, the drawing must be issued on the 10th of January, the day before. Right, we don't have an actual finish yet, and obviously there's no delay yet because there's no finish yet, but what we can add to it is a symbol, which you'll see later on in the reports how that is used. So let's, for now, I'm just entering I for information. Then after the tender drawing, drawings and details is received, I need to tender documents need to be put together. The tender documents need to be put together by the PQS. So let's give it a period. In this case, 5 work days. The calculation of the long lead schedule is always in work days. And here you can see, okay, the MLC is PQS. And if I go to the symbol, I'm going to use T for tender. And when I enter, it now calculates and say activity to start on the 11th on site. The tender documents must now be finished on the 10th, so therefore you must start on the 14th, so therefore the details must be received on the 13th. As you can see, it's sort of a backwards programming. Notice the start of the tender documents is on the 14th of December and the completion 10th of January. That is obviously longer than the 5-day lead duration allowed for, so clearly indicating that the calendar is being used in the calculation as well, that what you enter is only work days. We can also show this on a portion of the report so that it makes more sense. On screen you now see the section of the report indicating that the tender documents period spans in January 3 days, but when it starts in December 2 days, clearly showing that the 5-day workday is used and not the calendar day, so the December holiday is also taken into account. Right, so let's fill in the rest. After you've got your tender documents together, you need to go to tender, so there's a tender period allowed. Right, and that tender period is also 5 work days. Same MLC, just use Control K to copy. And in the symbol, also use Control K to copy, and it's also in the. Once the tender period is done, you need appointment. How long will the appointment period? You're going to give it 1 day. Who's going to be doing the appointment? Same PQS. I'll see. And now you'll use the symbol. Click in the symbol column. A for appointment. Right. The construction details. After you've appointed the guy, the construction details are required. Okay. Again, we're going to allow a 1-day period. Hopefully the drawing's already drawn up. Now just to issue. Consultant is going to issue it. Right. And we don't even put a symbol to it. You don't have to put a symbol for everything. You will see later when we look at the reports what the symbols are used for. Then after the construction details received, there's a shop drawing period allowed. Okay, and that's by the contractor. And you can allow a period of, say, 10 work days. Right, and shop drawings approval. Approval period. And let's allow a week for that. And that will be consultant. And after it's approved, obviously the order and manufacture can start. Right, and let's say this easy one is just 5 work days. Allow for deliver on site. depending on where the contractor is situated. And let's say 1 day. After all the long lead items are entered, it is clear from the list that the tender drawings are required on the 6th of November 2023 to start on site on the 11th of January 2024. Take note that the duration that you enter in the long lead schedule is based on work days, taking into account any holidays and non-work days entered in the PC calendar of the project. Let's show you the functionality, tips and tricks that's available in long lead schedule when entering information. And let's do that with the next appointment that we require, and this time it's for the plumber. So we're going to enter plumbing activity. It's uppercase F 529, and there's the plumbing first fix in the ceiling. To show you the functions in the soft long lead schedule, I'm going to maximize the long lead schedule so you can see that fully. Right, now instead of typing in all those items again, we can use two methods of copy and paste. The first method is Candy's copy and paste using the function keys Control R to record and Control D to dump. So place your cursor on the first item that you want to copy, in this case tender drawings details, sprinklers. Control R will record the line, put it on the Candy clipboard and move to the next line. Control R again, and the same process repeats. Copy the item and place it on the Candy clipboard in the sequence that it's copied. Right, let's do the rest. Control R, 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 Control R, Control R, Control R. Okay, and then you can also copy a blank line, Control R, if you want to. To paste from the clipboard in the Candy clipboard now, you use the keystrokes Control D for dump. And when you press Control D once, the first item that was stored on the clipboard is now dumped wherever the cursor is positioned. This allows you to place the cursor further down on another item and dump the second item that you've put on the clipboard, go down a couple of more items and dump the third item on the clipboard. So it doesn't paste everything in one go, it pastes it in sequence that you've placed it on the clipboard every time you press the Control D button. So let's do the rest. Control D, hold my control button in, press Control D, 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 and nothing to recall. So even the blank line was pasted, but after all the items on the clipboard is pasted, you get a message, nothing to recall. Right, now all you need to do is to say, okay, these are no longer sprinklers, these are the plumbing. So let's delete the items there, characters, type in plumbing, do the same with the appointment, plumbing. Now obviously you will revisit the durations to make sure it makes sense, and the consultants responsible for if it's not the same consultants. At the moment we're going to keep it as all the duration and consultants as is. The second method to use as far as copy and paste is concerned is the normal Windows copy and paste, and it works as follows. Let's put in the air conditioning. That was uppercase F 528. Right, now we want the details there come the same details, but now we want to use the Windows copy and paste method. Where the Windows copy and paste method works in the long lead schedule, hold your shift button in first, press the down arrow on your keyboard, and as you press the down arrow, every line that you press gets highlighted and selected. Once you selected all required, press Control C, copy on your keyboard, and then place your cursor where you want to paste it, press Control V, and it's pasted. If there's another appointment that you want to make, F5 to 7 in this case, which is the electrical installation. Let's just scroll a bit down so you can see. Place your cursor there below the electrical data first fix. Now you've still got the information on the clipboard, and Control V will just paste it. Now notice that everything on the clipboard gets pasted. So the difference is Candy clipboard, Control R for record, Control D for dump, will copy the lines as you put them in sequence on the clipboard, and will dump them in sequence as they were entered on the clipboard. Control C will copy everything that you've highlighted on the clipboard and will dump everything that you highlight on the clipboard using Control V, but keep the clipboard with the information for more pasting elsewhere. Some other functions that you might find handy is closing and opening of headings, as well as activity or long lead groupings. So let's say you want to close the plumbing and everything below the plumbing. You hold your control button in, press your up arrow, and it will close the item. If you want to open it again, control down arrow will open the item. If you want to obviously put your cursor on the level 2 heading and you press your control up arrow, it will close that. Items below it, control down arrow will open it up in sequence of the headings that's there until you get to the items below it. You can also use shift control spacebar, which will close everything, and control spacebar, which will open everything. Right, you might notice that I've put in the sprinklers first, which were not in the same sequence as the sequence that we had in the program. So if I want to fix this, not that it does matter as far as the printout is concerned, because later on I'll show you the printout can be done in date order required, but let's fix this aesthetically. So let's close the sprinklers, let's close the plumbing, let's close the AC, and let's close the electrical. Right, I want the electrical to be first below the level 5 heading, so I want to move it up. Control left arrow will move it up. Right, I want the sprinklers to be last, so control right arrow will move it down. And let's put this the AC above the plumbing, control left arrow, move it up. Okay. Now I can open up everything, control spacebar, and now I've got it in the sequence that I have it on the program: electrical first, then AC, then plumbing, then sprinklers. Obviously, I now have to revisit the descriptions and the durations and the consultants to make sure it applies to what is required. We have now looked at how to enter only the required activity numbers, one of the methods to transfer activities into the long lead schedule. The next method that we're going to look at is how to import all activities, which is also available. Let's use a real program that was done for the Clock Tower Retail Project. So select it, program, and notice all the activities. Right. Now, programs tend to have a lot of activities, especially if there's big projects like this one. And to know how many activities there are, you can do a filter on the duration column, start a new filter, and say everything greater than 0. Right, so there's about 5,000 activities in this project of ours. Right, so let's go to the long lead schedule, clearing the screen and just focusing on the long lead schedule. Right, and we're going to make a new long lead schedule. I've already made one. We open it up. and it's empty. So in Tools, you'll have the opportunity to import from a program either all the activities, headers only, or selected activities. Now we're going to demonstrate import all activities. So choose that one. We ask, do you want to append to the existing activities that's already there? Basically, there's nothing at the moment, but we say yes. Activities are imported and all our activities are in there. Now, obviously, with a lot of activities like this 5,000 activity, you need to use some of the functions and tricks that I've shown before. So let's close everything up to the highest level. And now you can go and open up to whatever level you want. Right, you can also, and it's also advisable to create different long lead schedules if you've got more than one zone or area in the project. Like in this case, you've got a clock tower zone and a retail zone. So let's say you just want to look at the retail. You can go and delete the activities that's not required in the long lead schedule, so they closed up the clock tower precinct. Press Control Delete on your keyboard because there's no undo. You get asked the question, are you sure you want to delete this line? Say yes, and because it's a closed line, we ask, do you want to delete the families that's been inside, that's closed up as well? Yes, and it's gone, and there's no undo.
You can, however, re-import the deleted activities from the program with the merge function, which will be explained later. On the screen is now only retail and RIM in a closed heading. Let's open it up, Control down arrow. It gives us the retail structure, the offices and the finishes. That's heading number 3. Let's open up that. The RIM structure is also there. Let's open up the retail structure. That gives us the lift shafts and the slabs. It appears that the slabs level 4 is earlier than the lift shafts. So let's open up the slabs. Right in there, there's retaining walls. So there's retaining wall footings. Let's open up, see, nope, we don't require something there yet. Let's go to B2 slab, retail footprint, open that up. There's the first pore. And there we have subsoil drainage required. Right, so that's the surface bed. Subsoil drainage, so we require the appointment of the plumber at least by then. So what you can do, if you've already got previous long lead schedules in the same project or same program, you can split the screen in half, call up the others and say, okay, let's go, and use Shift down arrow to copy, Control C. Okay, close that, go back here, maximize that, and we want it on the subsoil drainage, so we put it below the subsoil drainage. Control V, and there's the information, and just recalculate, and it will get the dates correct now. Now the same as before, you will go and find each and every item that requires appointments, the relevant entries, to make sure that the appointment is done on time. Right, so there's a couple of appointments already being done as before. You'll notice that we will put remarks in there that tell you what was allowed for. As far as the manufacture period, there's 18 weeks allowed because it's an import, or there's only 12 weeks allowed because it was a local. The staircase metalwork include balustrades, and so you can make remarks as you see fit. Just remember, you've only got 48 characters to play with. Next, we're going to look at another method to import activities. This method is import just the headings of the program, and it's done as follows. Right, we're going to make another long lead schedule, already created there. Select it. It's empty. Just to show how it works, I'm going to split the screen in half. Size the long lead to the bottom half. Open the program. Change the view, and let's make the view level to the lowest level. Size it to the top half. Right, go back to the long lead schedule, tools, import headers only, append to the existing long lead schedule, yes, and there we have the headers. Now notice the header functions are still working. Control up arrow and down arrow still opens and close, but only to the lowest level of headers at that point. Right, again, you can now say allocate to the activities that you want. You can move things up and down as you want. Open. Right, open that up, open the substructure up, and let's do the plumbing tender like before. It's already still on the clipboard as was saved before, and there we have the long lead items as we copied it from the previous long lead schedule. When importing headers only, one has to keep the following in mind. A header is a summary activity. So any changes or additions of activities below the header that might influence the header's date will influence the date that displays in the long lead schedule. The other thing that you need to keep in mind, because the header is a summary, you cannot export any delays back to the program and see the effect on the activities, because it's not an activity, it's a header. So keep that in mind. Next, we're going to look at another method to import activities. This time we're going to import selected or filtered activities only to make a specialized long lead schedule, maybe just for shop drawings of the steel or something similar. Let's first look at a long lead schedule for the steel structure shop drawings, already been done, and then we'll do it again and to see how it was created. As you can see, in the long lead schedule we only have steel roof structure activities and related long lead items below them. Let's go and see how we created this. First of all, we go to the program, and in activity description we apply a filter and we look for all the word steel in the description. Right, and there we have the 9 items in the program. You can see the rejects below. So should you want to add more items that's steel related, you can add it to the list as well. So let's say, for instance, the feature roof structure is also a type of steel. So you can just say add to the current column where my cursor is currently highlighted. So you see there, it's in there. So add to the current column, which is the activity description column. Not reduce by keeping, that's already on the screen, but increase by adding to the filter anything that's got the word feature.
Right, and we've got 11 from 9 to 11. So let's see where we got the other features from. Okay, so there's the feature and featured plaster moldings. We obviously don't want that. So we say plus again, apply to the same column where my cursor is, which is the activity description column. But this time reduce by excluding everything that's got plaster in the description. And now we've only got the relevant roof structures and steel structures that we require. Having done that, we go back to the long lead schedule. We create a new one. Let's call it steel structure. And it's the shop drawings that we want to look at. Shop drawings, workflow. And we select it by entering it. Now we choose tools, import from the program, and this time we use import selected activities only. Confirm. And there we have only the filtered activities in the long lead schedule. Right, as the work has been done before and you already know now how to add items, I'm going to open the other long lead schedule on the top and use the shift down arrow, Control C, go down here, go to the first activity, which is this one here, construct roof street structure, atrium roof A, Control V, and it's there. And so you can continue for the rest. Let's look at the next option, how to import activities. This is merging new activities into the schedule. Let's go and look how that is done. For this, we're going to go back to our little simple sample. We take the original long lead that we've created earlier today. We're going to duplicate it. We can rename it if we want to. Sample long lead. Merge. And we can select it. Right, I'm going to split the screen so that the bar chart can be displayed on the top. And this time I'm actually going to use a different bar chart that I've created or that I'm going to create. So let's make a new document, make a bar chart with create dates. Customize it, add activity create date and activity create initials. And open it. Split the screen, put it on the top. Now we can see exactly when the activity was created and by whom. Okay, if you look at the long lead schedule below, we've only used one of the activities in there. So we might want all the activities to come in, or we might have added another activity in the meantime that we also want to come in. Okay, so having said that, let's go and see how that will happen. So we're going to go here, we're going to maximize it so that you can see the full long lead schedule. We're going to go to tools, we're going to import, and now we're going to merge new activities. Okay, say yes. Notice now what happens. It brings in all the activities that has not been in the schedule before, as well as the new one that I've just created. So it's only adding activities that hasn't been in the schedule. So be careful when you use merging. Rather do it as follows. If you really want to bring in only the one activity that you've created and not all the others, let's go delete, Control delete the activities we don't want. Hold my control button in and press delete the whole time until I've got rid of all the activities not required, as well as the one below, Control Delete. Now if you just want to bring in the activity that you've just created and not all the others, because you've got a specialized long lead schedule, then what I would recommend you do is what I've did here, is create or add the create date or create ID, and on the create date you can actually then filter, swipe and filter on fragment. So I only want to bring in everything created on the 15th of March. So reduce the activity list to everything equal to the 15th of March, or you can overtype the date if you're not happy with a date there. You can also choose a date range, less than, greater than, or within a date range. We're going to choose equal to. Confirm, hide the rejects, and on the list is only that one activity. And now I can go to the bottom here and say tools, import only the selected activity, and only the selected activity with its headings comes in. Okay. Right, if I don't want the headings, I can obviously go and delete them, or I can go and insert a line there if I do want the headings. We've looked at how to import the activities. Let's look at the next topic. This is now how the long lead dates are calculated. We've touched briefly on it. Let's look at the long lead dates calculation, especially when there's multiple calendars. Let's duplicate our simple sample. I've already done that. Call it simple sample 2 and select it and open the bar chart. What we've already done for you to save time, I've closed this heading, copied and pasted back here. So now I've got exactly the same activities under a different heading. I'm going to apply a 6-day calendar to this, and then we'll see what's the effect on the long lead items and how the long lead items is calculated when you've got multiple calendars in your program. Right, so now how do we get a 6-day calendar? We go to the calendars. Right, there's the PC calendar or project calendar that was created when you create the program for the first time. That was a 5-day calendar. Now we've got a couple of activities that's going to work on a 6-day calendar. 6-day calendar is already created. How was it done? We clicked on tools, we selected add calendar, we filled in the code, and it appeared there, exactly like you have been taught at the planning courses. Right, the 6-day calendar isn't there. We can see it's a 6-day because workday number 6 is on a Saturday, where workday number 6 here is on a Monday. We also have already defined the holidays in the PC calendar, so instead of going through and define the holidays and non-work days again in the 6-day calendar, all we need to do is place our cursor in the 6-day calendar, which we've already done, and then set copy the holidays. And that's how the holidays got into the 6-day calendar. You could have also used the year planner and physically put the holidays in for each of these calendars. But the copy works much better if you already got holidays in and non-work days. Let's close the calendar. Let's choose a different document that's already been created for us. It was customized. We added the calendar code, we added the calendar name to the document, and let's open up or select that document. Right, now before we add the calendar code, let's go and look at quickly at the reports, which will be discussed in more detail just now. But let's look at the report and see what we're getting at the moment. Right, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to zoom to that side. And you'll see there's the delivered to site 1 day. The order and manufacture was 5 days. So there's day number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And obviously it is work days, so it doesn't take into account the holidays. So that's why you have the free days on the other side of the holiday. So let's now see if we allocate a 6-day calendar so that this activity works on a Saturday as well, and see what's the effect on the long lead items. So we go back to allocate it to all these activities. We hold our shift button in, click in the calendar code, shift click at the bottom, right click what we want to do with our selection. We want to set the calendar and we want to select the 6-day working day. Right, the 6-day calendar is allocated. Notice if there's no code in the calendar, it is by default the PC calendar. Any other calendar that you allocate will have a code in the calendar code column. Right, changes have been made, so we need to calculate, and there is the effect on the activities. Let's go to the long lead schedule. Let's look at that sample that we made, and now let's see if we recalculate this, what happens. So now obviously the date of the activity has changed based on the 6-day calendar, and these are still based on the 5-day calendar, the long lead start and finish. Let's go and look and see what it looks like in the reports. So let's preview that. So now the activity had a finish to finish link, so it pulled it out. Now you can see there it's working on the Saturday, but the delivery to site is now on the Friday, not the Saturday. As you can see, it uses the PC calendar or the 5-day workday calendar to calculate the long lead items and not the calendar allocated to the activity. We've discussed how the long leads dates are calculated, even with multiple calendars using activities. Let's now discuss the next topic, which is the different calculation modes available in the long lead schedule. They are free. The first one is calculating using the early start. Next one is calculating using the base program, and then calculate using the earliest of base or early start. Let's see how this is done. We are using the simple sample again. It's already been copied. I've added the base program start and finish dates view on the standard bar chart. I've opened up the long lead schedule with the sprinklers first fix in the ceiling, and now we can go and look at the different calculation modes available in the long lead schedule. Right, next to the calculate button here at the bottom, you will notice an up arrow, and when you click on the button, it gives you an option to choose calculating using early start, calculating using base program, or calculating using the earliest of base and start. Every time you select it, a little tick will appear next to the one selected. Right, so let's first look at calculate using early start, which is the default. What that will do, it will look at the earliest start date. So if the activity is ahead of schedule, obviously you want the information earlier. If it's behind schedule, you must be careful because now the early start date is changed. Let's look at the practical side of it. So we're going to now show the base program on the bar chart as well. So we click on progress and show the base bars, which you can see as little blue bars in the background. So everything is on track at the moment. If we start the project and we're actually ahead of schedule, I'm going to move my start date here to simulate ahead of schedule and recalculate the job. And now you can see we're ahead of schedule. The base program is still on the sprinklers first fix 11th of January, but the new start date, or the early start date, is now the 28th. I come back here, I make sure that I'm in the calculate using early start, and when I press calculate, notice the start of the activity is now the same as the current start.
Right, what happens if we fall behind schedule and we use the early start calculation? So let's go to the top again. Let's move the start there and we calculate, which now simulates so that we're behind schedule. We've slipped from the base program 20 days, right? And we are now going to start the sprinklers first fix on the 8th of Feb. So if I now look at this before I calculate, it was the 28th. It's still on the early start, so let's calculate it. And now it's the 8th of Feb. So be careful when you use the calculation mode early start. It is suited when you're ahead of schedule, but not suited when you're behind schedule. Right, let's put ourselves back on schedule again. Alright, so that would have been 31st of March. And calculate. Right, we're back on track. Now let's do the option, calculate using base program. Let's calculate that now again. We're back on the base program, 11th of January. We're back on the 11th of January sprinklers first fix in the program as well. What happens if we're ahead of schedule? We calculate, come back here, calculation mode is base program. It stays, even if you calculate, it stays on the 11th of January. If we're behind schedule, the same goes there. It will remain at the 11th of January because you're using the base program to calculate. Come back here, calculate, it remains on the 11th of January. Right, so let's put ourselves back on track again. Let's change the calculation mode. Let's change it to calculate using earliest of base and early start. Calculate now, obviously it's on track, so it's base and current is the same, 11th of January for the sprinklers. Let's see the scenario if we're ahead of schedule. Alright, we're going to push it there and we're going to calculate. Right, we're ahead of schedule. We come back here, make sure that the calculation is set correctly, calculate, and now because we're ahead of schedule, the earliest start date is the 9th of November. So there you can see it in the long lead schedule. What happened if we're behind schedule? Calculate, come back here, recalculate, and notice now the earliest start date, although the activity is now predicted to start only on the 12th of Feb, the base date is the 11th of January, so therefore the long lead item is the 11th of January. I trust you understand now how the calculation works. Keep in mind that when you want to export to the program, you must always use the base program calculation. It would be advisable in all long leads presentations to use the base program, but you can, if you're ahead of schedule, use the early start calculation. We finish looking at the long lead calculations. Let's go and look at the next topic, which is long lead reports. We're going to look first at the long lead list reports. That's on the long lead printout itself. You can either do a full list, everything that you see on the screen printed out on a piece of paper, or a report filtered by a certain responsibility. Let's go and look how it's done. Still using our simple sample. Let's now go and look at the reports in the long lead schedule. So let's open up the long lead schedule and let's go to the appointments that's been made. And here we've got a couple of items already entered for us. Incidentally, note that you can use the same activity number multiple times in the long lead schedule like we did here, because that's a trigger for the security contract appointment, the access control appointments, the smoke ventilation contractor appointment, detection and CCTV contractor appointment. All of them are triggered by the start date of F527 electrical data and first fix sealing. But each one has got a different manufacture period or a different approval period as required. Right, so in the list report, what you will do is you'll click on Tools, you'll select Print, and the print dialog will open. If you've been to any of the courses, you will be familiar with all the tabs except the last tab here, which is the filter tab. Right. So the first print is print all, and what that will do, it will print a full list if we go and look at that. Right, and in the sequence that it appears. So if you look at the group, this security tender drawing details is required on the 29th. This is required on the 14th, which is earlier than the 29th, but it's now just in a list that you've have it on the screen. Right, let's close that. Let's go and look at the other options available to us. If we do the filter, use a filter on a current activity list. So if you've got a filter on your bar chart, you can do that, but I would recommend you do this. Print as per selection below. Right, you've got an option to sort, like no sorting, which is basically like the list I've just shown you, or you can say no, let's sort this by start date or item finish date, whichever you want to do. Usually most common sense is you use one item start date. You've got the facility to choose a certain date range. You've got the facility to choose a certain activity that you want to activity range, or you can include the completed activities. In the long lead section here, you can choose all items or all incomplete items. So let's choose the all items for now, and let's see the result. Right, and now we can see things have been moved up. So air conditioning tender detail starting on the 1st of September is the first in the list. The electrical data or access control is required on the 14th, but the CCTV is also the 14th, but the smoke ventilation is only on the 21st of the September, because the order and manufacture period, let me just move down, the order and manufacture period is 35 days versus the 40 days there, which forces the tender details earlier for the CCTV than the smoke vent. Let's close this and look at the other options available. Let's look at the other options available for us. We've just printed some there. When you select under the long lead selection all incomplete items, all items with an actual finish in the long lead schedule will not be part of the print. You can also choose items with a finish date within a certain date range. So therefore you must also combine that with the long lead date range. If you choose the long lead date range only with all items, it will look at the long lead items and look at the dates and print everything that falls within that date, whether it starts or finish within a date range. But if you just want to print out what finish within a certain date range, you choose the option here as well, items that finish within a date range. But remember, both must be selected for this to work correctly. Or you can choose, I'm busy looking at what has already been issued. You can choose items with an actual finish date in the long lead schedule. Right, I'm going to move this slightly over so that you can see the other options available and compared to the long lead schedule. So if I want to print for a certain responsibility code only for a specific consultant, then I can tick the box and type in the consultant's abbreviation or responsibility code used. Keep in mind, it is case and spelling sensitive. I can also use a description filter. So I only want to see everything in the description that's got the word tender in it,
and it will now print all the items that's got the word tender in it. Or I can have a remark, so everything that's got the word weeks in it. We can see what is the period allowed for that might have to be revisited once we've got the appointments made. Or I can change that maybe and say look for the word imported, and now I can only filter out the imported items from the long lead schedule. Right, let's switch that off for a moment. Let's only go and print a report for the MLC consultant. So we've made our filter, we set it all items by responsibility code, sort by start date, and now we're going to go and look at that report once we select it. Okay, let's preview that report, and we can zoom in and we can see Mr. Consultant, these are only your responsibilities that you have to look at. Tender documents, tender period, and appointments. Let's close that. If we go back to the print, if we go to the report, we will notice that you also have a filter that says include the free text at the start of the long lead. I've switched off the responsibility codes. I want to see the text. Okay, but before I can print that, how do I add the text? And what does it mean? If you look at the top of the screen, I've inserted a couple of blank lines, and I made a general comment related to all the long lead items below in this specific long lead list. So the manufacture and order periods had to be confirmed and adjusted once we've got the appointment of the subcontractors and the suppliers. Right, so let's go and look what that will do now for us. So if we print, we've got our filter, we make sure that free text is selected, say OK, let's preview that, and let's zoom in. And there is the free text on top of the list, which is applicable then obviously for the full list. And that takes care of the list printing. Next we're going to look at the printing in the normal report manager. Okay, so we've opened up the report manager. We created a heading using the new report, new heading option. Let's go to section 6, information long leads, and let's choose the second one, 6.2, detailed long lead bar chart. Right, you can rename it as to what you want to call it. Let's leave the name as default. But what I want to highlight here is the following, that because you can have multiple long leads, we indicate that the schedule is not set yet. So no long lead schedule has been chosen yet. So let's customize that report. We're going to leave all the tabs as is. We're just going to go to the long lead tab, and what is required, make sure that the long lead information required tick is ticked, and because you're looking at long leads, make sure the bullet points for the long lead is on. That should be on by default if you selected this default report. What you now have to do is you need to make a choice as to what long leads of all the long leads that you've already defined is required. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that long lead example of one appointment, right, because we just want to see the functions, and then we're going to go through all the items required here. But let's go and look at the first one. Full details as bars is what we're going to select. You can also select responsibility codes, which I'll show you now, or symbols only. On this side you can include items for completed activities. So by default you won't see long lead items for activities that's already complete in the program, because obviously activity is complete, you don't need information. However, if you're looking at a claim, you can obviously include the items for completed activities. Include activities with no items. So if you've got a lot of items that you haven't allocated any long leads to, so off your whole program you've only allocated long leads to say 20 items, but you've got 200 activities or plus, you can then include all the activities that you've got on your program plus the long lead items as well. Print only the symbols. That was the symbols that you identified in the long lead, and you can choose to print only a symbol or only a responsibility code. So let's cancel that one, and let's look at report samples already been prepared for us. So there's the full details as bars, option, and there we've got the schedule that was selected, long lead example 1 appointment, and let's go and look at a preview of that. Right, so there we have full details as bars, there's the activity and the bars of the long leads in front of the activity as required. Close that. Let's look at responsibility codes. Right, so let's look at how that was customized. So instead of full details as bars, we now select responsibility codes. Let's preview that. And let's zoom in a bit. So now you can see in front of the bar, you've got little boxes with the initials of the relevant consultants in the box. This is another option to look at the long lead schedule. Third option is long leads as symbols. Again, now this time we've chosen the symbols only. Right, we've also allowed for a legend. Okay, in the legend we've got only those symbols: information, tender, award, manufacture, ITAM. If you used other alphabet letters, that won't appear here. So this is the default legend. However, you can use the comments to make your own legend if you've used different alphabet letters for your symbols. Right, let's go and preview that. So now let's zoom in. You can see there's the activity, and there is the symbols, the M, the I, the A, and obviously the legend indicating what the M, the I, and A's stands for. Let's go and look at the filters available on the long lead bar chart report. So we're going to select the full details as bars. We're going to customize it. The long lead appointments is the one that we've now selected. And let's go and look at what it looks like at the moment. Full details as bars. And if I print and preview that, I can see there's my one activity and all the different long lead items in front of it. But let's say I only want to look at the appointments, so I can customize it and go to the long lead. I can say print only these symbols, A, select OK, and let's preview that now. And on the screen I've only got the appointments indicated. I'll close that. Let's use a different filter now. Customize it. Long leads, don't print symbols, only print for the engineer. His abbreviation is AM. Okay, say OK, preview, and now only the items with the initial AM is printed on the report. That concludes the reports in the Program Reports Manager. Next, we're going to look at the long lead delay export to the program. It can either be a actual delay or even a predicted delay. You're going to fill in the actual finish date, or you're going to fill in the predicted finish date. That will show the delay effect, and then you can export that delay effect back to the program using the base calculation, and then you can see the knock-on delay of all the predecessors of the activity being delayed. To see the knock-on effect of a long lead delay, on the activities in the program, we're going to use the Clock Tower Retail project. Let's open up the bar chart, and the activity that we're going to look at is the air conditioning. So let's open up our long leads and the appointments, and that will be activity F528, which is the one that you see there, the back. And we're going to say we're sitting at a meeting and we've been told that the appointment is not going to be made on the 14th of September 2023, but is predicted to be made only on the 14th of October. So type in 14/10/23, and when you press enter, the computer will calculate the delay effect, which is basically just the difference between the actual finish entered and the finish date of the long lead item, calculated in work days based on the project calendar. In this case, 20 work days delay. To export it to the program, you need to obviously calculate in the base program, but if you didn't, you'll get a warning. So click on Tools to export to the program, select Export to Program, and there's the warning that mentioned that you must set the calculation mode to the base program early start. So let's go and do that. Let's select the calculation mode, choose the option base program, calculate. Because there's no progress, nothing has happened. We still got a 20-day delay. Now let's export this to the program. Now that we're in the base program, calculation mode, say export to program. Clear any existing long leads. We don't have any existing, but let's say yes. Export to activity list complete. Right, let's go and click on the bar chart behind, and we can see that the AC has moved out, and everything linked to it, all its successes, has also been moved out, and the real effect is a delay of 16 days on the AC. And you can see how the other activities float has been adjusted as well. To see the full knock-on effect on all the activities, we've got a special view for that. Click on the Document Manager, go to Section 5, Progress, select Bar Chart with Restraints, and select the default document. On the screen, you will find the imposed delay for F528 is there. You can see the activity if you want to. There's the activity as well. Now, because we've got a lot of activities here, we're going to just filter out only the delay. So we'll swipe the word delay, do a filter on fragment, reduce by keeping, and there is the knock-on effect because of the air conditioning appointment being late. So now you can see everything that's been influenced by the late appointment, right down to the sectional handovers as well. Okay, so now you've sit at the meeting, the guy says to you, okay, we can't afford the project to be handed over 16 days late, so we'll make a plan. So you can go back and say, let's remove the delay. We will get the appointment on time. So right click and select the activity that's got the long lead delay on it. Go down to the bottom, Restraints, remove Restraints, and remove the long lead restraints. Right, the little stopper is removed. When we calculate, the program is back as it was before. So the 106 items is now back on track. Abandon that, go to the long lead schedule, and then obviously after you've minuted the fact that the appointment will be made on time, you can just delete the actual finish that you've entered,
and your program and your long lead schedule is all back on track. That concludes the long lead schedule. Let's go and look now at the information schedule. Here we have the activity, but this time we're going to look at what is required before the activity start. So what is required first is the layout drawing, say a week ahead of the activity start, and then maybe 2 weeks before that you need the reinforcing schedule, and maybe 3 weeks before the activity start you need the casting items for the concrete footings. As you can see, it's information at a point in time. There's no sequencing as it was with the long lead schedule. So basically items are required in parallel, and a delay of one will not delay the other items but will delay the activity. The long lead items and the information schedule items, as far as import of activities is concerned, works exactly the same. You will enter only the required activity numbers as one method, or you can import all the activities like you did with the long leads, or you can import the headings only like you did with the long leads, or you can import the selected filtered activities only like you did with the long leads, and you can also merge new activities into the information schedule as you did with the long leads. As you can see, most of what we've talked about in the long leads is also available in the information schedule. And what we're now going to do is just highlight the differences. Let's look at the Clock Tower retail project again, and now we're going to look at the information schedules. So here's the program open. Let's go and open up a basic information schedule. Select that, and I've already entered all the headings as well as the activity that I'm going to look at. So let's split the screen, and you can see there's the excavate and construct bases A036 and its relevant headers. The first thing we require is, say, the construction drawings. Right, and we want that, say, tab 10 days before the activity starts on site, so 10 work days before the 28th of April. And who's supposed to give this to us? Let's say the consultant with the initials LKA, and then I can enter. Right, now what it does, it calculates like before from the activity start date. 10 working days before the activity starts on site is the 13th of April, and then is when we require the construction drawings. We can also put in a remark like include all penetration details. Okay, then we can say we want the reinforcing schedule. We want that 15 days before the activity start on site. Consultant that needs to supply that to us. And when I enter, there's the reinforcing schedules. I can also put in symbols like before, like maybe R for reinforcing schedules. If there are any casting items, we need that as well. And we need that at least 20 work days before the activity starts on site. Same consultant. Right, and then we can say maybe if required. This time the computer only looks at the duration and calculates from the start date when is the activity information required based on the 10-day workday duration, or a 15 workday duration, or a 20 workday duration. So a delay in the reinforcing schedule
Doesn't necessarily give the other consultant a reason to delay the construction drawings, as one can negotiate with the supplier and maybe get your reinforced earlier, and now you don't have the construction drawings. So the difference between the long lead schedule and the information schedule is that the date required in the information schedule is purely a point in time when I require the information. As with the long leads, you can also import from the program all activities, or you can import the headers only, or you can import filtered activities or merge new activities into the schedule. I'm not going to waste your time to demonstrate that again. You've already seen it in the long lead schedule. Like the long lead schedules, the calculation works exactly the same as far as the dates is concerned. The holidays and non-work days are taken into account when working out the required dates. As far as the calculation mode is concerned, you also have the same calculate using early start or base, or the earliest of based and early start. When you enter a delay in the received column, again, when you export that delay to the program, you must first change the calculation to the base program and then do that calculation, and now only you will be able to export to the program. Note, you can have on the same program for the same activity a delay on the long lead as well as a delay on the information if there's information required items on there as well. Let's now look at a more practical example. There's a couple of long lead schedules. We're going to use the reinforcing and concrete detail schedule to have a look at what has been done in there. Here we have more activities, and each one has the relevant casting items and details, reinforcing schedules, construction drawings, etc. Again, remember the tip: when you want to copy, especially when in the information schedule where you've got a lot of repeats for the same thing, you can use shift down arrow, then control C to copy and control V to paste. Okay, like before, you can go print out the schedule, click on print. You've got the option all as before, formatting everything, and like you had with the long lead schedule, you now have a filter, print as per selection below. We always recommend sort by item start date, and then you have the choice activity selection, date range, or certain long lead selection, or certain responsibility codes, or filter by description, or filter by a certain remark, exactly as we did with the long lead schedule. Okay, let's go and see what that report looks like. So we zoom in. There we can see information schedule now, and it's also sorted by date required order. There you can see the first item required there is at the 14th of September, then the 7th of November, and so forth. Let's close that, and we are back in the information schedule. Let's look at another one. There's doors and ironmongery, for instance. What we've done here on the program, we just filtered out everything to do with doors. Transfer that to the information schedule, and only put in the door schedule and ironmongery schedule requirements for the first activity on a specific floor, like in this case parking podium 3. The store water tanks will be going in first. As far as parking P2, that will be that store that will go in first. So you go through each one of that, and obviously, as you can see, things are closed up. Control down arrow open, control up arrow close. Take note that we've added some text in the beginning of the information schedule that allows us to print the text on the list. So let's go and look at it. Tools, print, filter, include free text at the start of the long lead, or in this case information schedule. Say okay, let's preview that, and there is the information required period. Does not allow for master key of locks. Let's close the report, and let's close the information schedule. Let's go and look at the reports in the normal report manager that you have. Once that's open, like it's already open, you can select a new report, select set number 6, information long leads, select 6.1 information required bar chart. It's already been done for us. We can customize it, all the tabs as before. Again, you go to the long lead and info tab, click the drop down menu as to which information schedule you require. Have all the other options available. Make sure that the long lead information required is ticked, and this time the information required bullet point is ticked. Let's go and look at what this looks like. Say okay, preview, and now let's zoom in a bit. So here we can see our activity and little triangles indicating when the information is required before the activity can commence on site. Take note of activity A028. It starts the first workday in January, but the information is already required in December, and that 10-day information period obviously takes into account the holidays as well. Let's close. Let's customize. You can also have responsibility codes. Now it shows the codes as well. Let's close that. Or you can also show symbols only if symbols was added, exactly like you did with the long lead schedule. You can do in the information schedule reports as well. The same as for the long lead schedule. Any delays in receiving information can also be exported back to the program to see the effect. So here we have the reinforcing schedules required on the 4th of April 2023, and at the meeting we were told that no, we're not going to receive it at that date. We're actually going to receive it on the 16th of April 2023. The computer now calculates the delay or the effect to be -6. That's just the workday difference between the 16th and the 4th of April. We now want to see what's the effect on the program, so we need to export it. Select Tools, Export Program, clear any existing, yes, Export Complete. When you activate the program, the delay is indicated there and the effect of the program. To see the true effect, you go to Documents, Bar Chart with Restraints, and there's the information delay. Let's do the filter again. Start a new filter for the word delay. Confirm. And only those 4 activities are influenced. These 4 activities has got a lot of float on them, so the delay is not affecting the critical path. That brings us to the end of our webinar, as we don't have time to discuss the age-old question, who does the float belong to? Should you have any queries, please feel free to contact your local RIP CCS office. As we celebrate our 40th birthday this year, we would like to thank you for your continued support and look forward to still serve you when we celebrate our 50th birthday. Thank you for your valuable time and the opportunity to share knowledge with you. Enjoy the rest of your day.